Bruce, I'm Tom Bessel.
I'm Melody.
And today we're taking a look at 1960, The Making of the President. Now this is not the first version. The first version came out almost 10 years ago in 2008 from GMT Games. It was a sequel of sorts to Twilight Struggle from one of the same designers, Jason Matthews. And this was one of the closest elections in U.S. history, John F. Kennedy against Richard Nixon, which was 17 years before I was born and 40 years before Melody was born. You didn't know a lot about this election, right? Did you know the presidents, though?
Yeah.
Most people know John F. Kennedy because he was the president to be assassinated, and Richard Nixon because he was a president who resigned. But before all that happened, there was a very, very close election, and this game plays it. You ready? One player is going to be playing Nixon, the other person is going to be playing Kennedy, and they're trying to get the most votes at the end of the game. The game is going to take place over 9 turns. Many of those turns, 7 of those turns are going to be regular turns. There's a special debate turn, and the final turn is an election turn, which simply you're going to count up the votes. At the end of the game, whoever has the most electoral votes is going to win. So there can only ever be one color of cubes in a state to show who controls it. So here, Nixon, the red player, controls Oklahoma. They're going to get 8 electoral votes. The blue player controls Kansas for 8 electoral votes. Louisiana here is controlled by the blue player for 10 electoral votes. No one currently controls Texas, which would, in a tie, go to whoever has basically an endorsement, or if it's still no one has an endorsement, then the Democrats are going to win Texas here with 24 electoral votes. These are easy to count up at the end of the game. You simply take these, and each player is going to take the ones that they have, add them together, and whoever has the most electoral points is the winner of the game. The game revolves around this deck of campaign cards, and each round of the game, players are going to get a hand of 6 or 7, depending on what round it is. And players are going to take these cards and go back and forth playing them. Now, you're going to go back and forth by deciding who goes first from the initiative bag. In this, you're basically going to pull 3 cubes. It's seeded with 12 of each player's color, and red is going to go first. These cubes are returned to players. So the composition of this bag is going to change, and most of that's from playing campaign cards. When you play a campaign card, no matter what else you do, you'll look at the rest cubes on it, so those will be 0, 1, or 2, and you'll place that many cubes from your supply on the rest area on the board. And at the end of each round, those are going to be thrown into the bag. So the more you have in the bag, the more chances you have to win initiative or support checks, which we'll talk about in a moment. When you play a card, you can play that card as an event. If you are mentioned on the card, your side is mentioned on the card, you can use the event. So this event can be played by either player. These 2 events can only be played by the Kennedy, or these 3. This event can only be played by Nixon. So you can play a card as an event, and you do just whatever it says. So for example, this says civil rights moves up 1 space on the issue track. So down here we have 3 issues. It's defense, economy, and civil rights. So it would move up 1. And then the leader in civil rights may add a total of 3 state support anywhere, no matter than 1 per state. So no one's leading it, but if you were leading it, you would play this card, and either player can play that. This card is a debate event, so you play it, and it's placed here in the debate events area. This card is an election event. It's placed in the election day event area. There are prevention events which stop some events from being played that are placed over here. And these events will come into play later on, during the debate, during the election day, etc. Now, sometimes you're going to play a card, your opponent's going to be like, oh man, I wanted to play that event. So if I'm Nixon and I play this card, oh, this would be great for the Kennedy player. Well, the Kennedy player can expend a momentum marker. These are very useful things. You have a few of them at the beginning. You can get more as the game goes by, but they're valuable. You can spend one to play an event that your opponent has played for the campaign points. So if they're not going to play the event, they're going to play it for the campaign points, and you can play the event instead. But when you play a card, you can spend 2 of your own momentum markers to stop your opponent from playing that event. Now, campaign points are on cards. These are going to be ranging from 3 to 4, and in fact, each player has their own candidate card in front of them that they can play instead of one of their cards, except when they play that one, it's exhausted, and they can't use it the rest of the game unless another card unexhausts it for some reason. So you get a certain number of campaign points. These get 5, but usually you're going to get 2, 3, or 4. And these can be used for various things. Most of the time, they're used to put more cubes out on the board. So let's say I have 3 cubes to put out on the board as the Nixon player. So I might say, okay, I'm going to add more votes here in California, and I might add some in Utah, and add one here in New Mexico. Now, when I add these, my candidate has to be in that region. So he's in California, that's fine. If I wanted to add some in the South, I would have to move to a state in the South, but that would cost a campaign point to do so. So that might be 1, and then I might say, okay, I'm going to drop 1 here in Texas, 2 in Texas, and 1 in Tennessee. Now, you have to be careful. If your opponent is carrying a state, which means they have 4 or more cubes in a state, you can still drop cubes in that state, but you have to make a check from the bag. So when you do that, let's say I'm going to try to add 2 cubes to Louisiana. I pull 2 cubes from the bag. I'm the red player, nothing happens. I would need to pull red cubes from the bag to do that. So these support checks, they're called, will be made at various points in the game. And if the opponent's candidate is there, well, you have to make those support checks in that state too. So having your candidate in a specific state can help your opponent, stop your opponent from putting cubes in that area. You can also use campaign points to put cubes in media. There's 4 regions in the board, as I mentioned, and you can put cubes in the media. Again, if your opponent has cubes there, and when you put a cube in any area, if your opponent has a cube there, you take 1 out instead of adding 1. So if I was going to add 3 red cubes to this media area, I'd go 1, 2, 3. It's the same way when you're placing cubes in states. Media is good because if you control the media of a region, you don't have to make those support checks when you're going into states. Also, whoever has the most media cubes at the end of each round can switch 2 of these issues. And speaking of issues, that's the final place you can place cubes. You can use points to place cubes on these different areas. The first time you put a cube somewhere, it's going to be 1 campaign point. If I want to put another cube out in that same spot on the same turn, it'll cost 2, etc. Whoever has the most of these at the end of a round is going to get momentum tokens, which are very useful, or they're going to get endorsement cards. Endorsement cards are great. You'll draw an endorsement card, and it will give you an endorsement in one of the regions, or if you're very lucky, you get a major endorsement and pick the region. An endorsement token is placed in a region, and that means at the end of the game, if there is a tie in that or if there's no cubes in a state in that region, you win that region automatically. So endorsements can be really good to get different states on the board with no cubes in them. So this is going to take place. You're going to do this, and each turn, you're also going to be placing 1 card in your campaign strategy. And when we get to the debates, which is a little bit funky part of the game, each player is going to take turns playing cards from their hand that they're going to be drawing from this campaign strategy, cards they've saved up, and it's going to be adding votes to the 3 different issues. You're going to place the 3 issues here, and whoever wins each issue by having more campaign points is going to get to put out free cubes on the board. Why does this matter? Well, first of all, you can throw away cards that help your opponent, but if you do so, they're going to do much better in the debate. You can throw cards that will really help you in the debates, but then you're not using them over the course of the game. After the debates are over, players will do the same thing, except they have 7 cards instead of 6, and they're going to be putting 2 cards in campaign strategy. On election day, all those 4 cards that you'll have will be revealed, and you will look then only at the states on those cards, and you will make 3 support checks, pulling cubes from the bag for each of those states. So it's like a last-ditch effort. Election day events will happen. So here, the Kennedy player gets 5 support checks in Illinois, if this card had been played over the course of the game. And then after that happens, you're going to just basically look around. There's going to be a few other minor upkeeping things that will happen over the course of the game, and whoever has the most votes wins. What you're looking at now is pretty much a setup of the board. There's a few things I've been placing all around, but it's mostly what it looks like at the beginning, and may the best man win. Now, real quick, before we go any farther, I do want to mention that this game has a few minor changes from the Z-Man version. Mostly how it looks is the biggest change, and there's a few other minor board changes with support checks and the issues and stuff, but very minor. I thought they were fine, the changes. There's also some variants, but basically we play the game straight. The history of the game, you don't know a lot about it, but what do you think about it? Do you learn anything by playing this?
Kind of like how the voting system works more.
That's true. The electoral system is not an easy concept for people to understand, and a game like this, I think, really does teach it to you. I mean, although it's different now. I mean, we both live in Florida, which is one of the most powerful states, has most electoral votes in 2017. It did not. It only had 10 in 1960.
Yep.
There, you're fighting for New York and California.
In Texas.
And so getting those big states is important, but really you can't ignore all the little states either, and it's a neat concept. I like the history. Each card is an actual thing that happened, and it's kind of fun for me to look at those, and the book even tells you a little bit more background history.
And it has little fun facts on the bottom of some cards too.
Right, and so I think this game is worth like using in a classroom and teaching-wise. But what do you think about it as a game? What do you think about the system when you play a card, you can use it for campaign points or the event, and your opponent might be able to get the event?
I really like that. I like how you have to be careful of when you want to play a card. Like you might have a really powerful card for the other person, and since you don't want to put that in the debate, you're going to use it, but also at the same time you got to time it right so it doesn't help the other person as much if they do use the card.
Now, if you've ever played the game Twilight Struggle, which was before this, or 1989, those have cards. When you play a card that has your opponent's event, they can just do it. In this one, it doesn't always happen. First of all, they have to spend a momentum token, and you don't have a ton of those. And in fact, if you don't spend them, you lose half at the end of each turn. And you can even just play 2 momentum tokens and say, this event is way too powerful. You do not get it. And so it makes the game a little bit less in your face, I guess. But I still felt like we were always going back and forth in this game.
Yeah.
The choices you have are a lot. Really, when you play the campaign points, you can put cubes anywhere, really. I mean, you have to move your candidate to put them in different regions, but that's not hard to do.
Yeah.
And so what you'll find is the game is a seesaw back and forth. Melody goes for New York. I'm like, no, you're not getting New York. And she said, I am getting New York. And finally one of us is like, forget New York, I'll go to Texas or wherever. What did you think of the, in the middle of the game or closer to the end of the game, the debate part?
I thought that was really interesting how before the debate happens, you can like use the card. You got to also think about, okay, which card do I want to go into debate, and you kind of work up to that. I found out that if you actually pay attention to which cards you're playing, you can really help yourself in the debate. Like you ran out of cards because one certain thing happened before you could play other cards. So.
Wow. And here's the thing, though. The debate doesn't seem like that big of a deal. And it's kind of the wonkiest rules thing. You have to kind of like, oh, wait a minute. We've been playing this game the same way. Now let's go to debate. And I played this game several times, and each time I get to the debate, it's kind of like, how does the debate work again? And it doesn't seem that important, but throwing some extra cubes on the board is a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
And even more importantly, I really think those strategic cards you play for the final voting, those final tactical pulls that you're making from the bag, that can really change the game. You can take a couple states from your opponent, and you're trying to outguess each other. Like, I think he's going to put a New York card in. They're going to go for New York or whatever. And I find that sort of thing interesting. There's certainly luck, but not a ton of luck in the game. The game is kind of a back and forth, and it seems pretty fair. Did you feel that it was balanced?
Yeah, definitely, because it really had that whole, oh, you're winning right now. Now I'm going to just maybe change just a couple cubes, and now I'm in the lead.
I don't know that a blowout is I mean, it's possible. It might have happened. But what I'm saying is, as the game goes by, I don't ever feel like, I never sit there at a point and go, I'm out of the game. I can't win this. No. I feel like that's there. And I feel that the game looks good. The red and the blue, the states. The only issue with it is occasionally I forget what cubes are in what state. Yeah. Especially with the smaller states. You can put them in they have little boxes, but sometimes it can be a little,
messy.
A little messy. You look at a spot and go, oh, I have that spot, but you don't. The cubes, there's no cubes in the area or something. So overall, what do you think of the game?
I thought it was really fun. It looked hard. It wasn't as hard as I thought it would be. It was actually kind of simple. Like, just really you're playing cards and putting out cubes. But I would play it again, and so it was a lot of fun.
And you rank it a?
Maybe like a 7.5.
All right. Well, I rank it actually higher than that. This one has really improved for me. Really enjoy it. I like Twilight Struggle a lot, but sometimes I just want to play a simple back and forth, and this one really does it for me. I think elections, from a analytical standpoint, are very, very interesting, especially when looked back historically. And so this one I would give an 8.5. Really enjoyed it. That is 1960, The Making of the President. I'm Tom Vassell.
And I'm Melody.
And this has been Double Trouble.
Boom!
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.